Hello, everyone, and welcome to Game 2 of League of Legends game against Tiffin University. Um, I'm your host, Dikembe. I'm here with my co-host.
Hi, how's it going?
And we're actually jumping into Game 2 of this series here. Due to just streaming conflict, scheduling conflict, we couldn't catch Game 1, but Game 1 did go to Valpo Esports, and we're entering into draft now of Game 2. So with the first ban, we have Tiffin University banning that Tarek. I mean, we've seen our bot laner Steamroller play Tarek a lot, so comfort pick for him. But Valpo Esports banning the Garen and the Aatrox. The Garen is understandable with Tiffin, with just kind of just like a comfort pick that they have. But the Aatrox is something that I know Dreadful plays a lot as well, so it looks like they're just electing to pick Dreadful on a different role. Um, Tiffin with the Azir ban, and it looks like a blank ban, but if we check the League of Legends, it says Kaisa. Okay. So, Kaisa and Azir makes sense. Banning out both Thunk Senpai in the ADC lane and our mid laner Jakimbo and his Azir. Pretty high pick rate right now for Jakimbo as well. He's been opting towards that Azir, especially like rolling into these new preseason changes that we have.
Yep, and I think he played that Azir in game one that we missed as well and
Yep.
did pretty well on it, so
hmm
makes sense to take that away from Jakimbo.
Yep, with the positioning and kind of just the leverage that Azir gives, especially with being able to zone people out, it's a really good ban from Tiffin. But with the first couple picks, we have two ADC picks coming, Jinx from Tiffin and then Jin from Valpo Esports. Jin being a comfort pick for Thunk Senpai as well. I know that he's especially keen to running that with more of like an engage comp, being able to combo CC chain with his W that roots, right? But Tiffin picking the Jinx, really, really late game scaler. So a Leona pick here would make sense. That you're just trying to peel off for your Jinx as much as you can in that early lane. That tankiness that Leona brings to the support role really does help Jinx for that late game scaling so that she doesn't get jumped on early. Um,
Yep, and I believe, we've also rotated in Zaxter into the jungle for this game
yep.
as well. So, having that really strong group of players, lets you get um, those different champions. We're seeing the Jin, we're seeing the Jarvan, and those are champs that, those players play and that, our other jungler and bot liner might not necessarily pull out. So it's good to
Yep.
have that depth.
And the engage that Jarvan offers, especially, and we've seen that. I mean, Zaxter loves to play around his team, especially like running into jungles, different things. He initiates a lot of fights, so it does help to pick a very, very aggressive pick here. The Wukong coming out from Tiffin. Wukong just kind of being a strong champ overall. Very like general pick. Good, like not so much as a blind pick, but very good into Jarvan, especially because when Jarvan does solo you out, Wukong's resistances that he has with his ults and being able to get out of Jarvan ult using one of his abilities as well camouflages him. Um, these kind of just like matchups, it does help when actual fighting, especially in that early game fighting in the jungle. We have a Swain pick as well from Valpo Esports, probably a Swain mid. We know that MF Jacimbo likes to pick that Swain mid, especially into a blind, because Swain offers a lot of utility just being as tanky as he is early game. Even if he's not going to win the lane, he is going to eventually scale enough so that his team can play around him.
Yep, and we're also gonna ban out that Corki there. Not something I've
hmm
seen too often, but it could just be, something that Tiffin plays a lot or something that Jakimbo doesn't want to play into there.
Yep, and I think the Shen and the Corki ban are smart here because Corki, especially with the range that he offers with Swain, and then his full auto machine gun that does shoot close range, it does have a really, really effective chance at zoning Swain out in that lane. Not only in lane as well, but when he picks up package and he starts to move to different lanes, using that package to be able to dive over enemy comps, especially with Valpo Esports right now, not really drafting that strong of a front line it does help out, but it seems that it's not actually a Swain mid. It's going to be a Swain support, which means that Steamroller 14 is going to be playing Swain, and Syndra is going to be going mid lane. Um, with the Tiffin University pick, the Darius, I mean, Darius is number one in especially NA right now for top laners. It's just he has the highest win rate in the game. Definitely probably the best top laner. and maybe if not like the best um, skill expression that you can get, definitely a good pick just like overall. But I mean, you're gonna pick the number one. You have to pick the last one to balance it out, right? And the next mid pick is Rise. um, Rise right now has a historically low win rate. Kind of funny, like picking the blue man out here. EQ, 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 EQ is all you can do. Um, and that's about it. But I guess they have to balance it out. You're gonna pick Darius. You have to pick Rise. But Valpo Esports is kind of Valpo Esports is also. Oh,
I
okay.
wonder if this might have been a
It's
mispick.
Urgot. Okay,
Okay,
yeah. I
yes.
was a little bit worried. I'm like, all right, we're just messing around now.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Valpo Esports, that Vagar is actually an Urgot. Urgot top. I mean, we've seen Dreadful play this before. He does like to take this into a Darius. Just that little bit of extra range to stay away from that Darius pull is super helpful. But I mean, like I was saying, I guess Tiffin had to even themselves out a little bit. They picked too high of a win rate character. Um, Definitely had to go with the Rise. And I mean, I understand practicing it because this next preseason with Rod of Ages being a new item back, being a really, really important build for Rise, now that that's back in the game, Rise may actually have a place like in competitive play, especially as counter picks, but until that patch comes out, I really don't see what the matchup is here. Obviously,
I mean,
excuse me.
looking back at this draft, one interesting thing here is that Tiffin banned out this Talia, in this second phase after we picked the Swain. So they
Yep.
picked up on that, little bait from Valpo, knowing that that Swain was not going mid.
Hmm.
So pretty good drafting there by Tiffin, I would
Yeah.
say.
I will say good drafting, and I mean, I have to assume, I mean, we saw it last series as well. When you pick an off meta role, like when or not really an off meta role, but just like a bad win rate pick, it has to be someone that's comfortable playing it. So I don't think that Tiffin University is just throwing in the towel here. I think it's more so just this is a play of confidence from them picking that Rise mid.
And a lot of times you see, meta, doesn't super matter. Like if a player knows a certain character very well and they can play that character very well, even if it's not meta, it can still really work into the game plan and be a winning character.
Mm. And I think really the win con here for Tiffin University is that Rise, as much as I hate to say it, because Darius, Jinx, right? These guys are gonna scale. Darius just wins all throughout the game. There's no phase in the game that on level he does not win. That is the scary part about Darius. But with Darius, Wukong, right? These are early skimmerish people. The only two people that are not early skimmerish are Rise and Jinx. And I think that Jinx is almost a guaranteed scale. She will get there at one point. She will start killing at one point. But Rise is the win con here. Because Darius and them, they will all scale, but Valpo Esports has a really high scaling comp as well. Um, so really, it's if the Rise can, not even just like getting kills, because there's more to Rise than just like doing damage. Obviously there's more to Rise than just EQ, EQ, EQ. Like Blue Man can do more, and that really comes from his ult. I mean, being able to realm warp and place something for your team, especially in objective fights, I think it gives Tiffin University an advantage as well if they are behind in the game. Obviously, with Valpo Esports taking game one, that having a jump onto objectives full team instead of just having to look for steals, look for like picks, anything like that, it gives them a way back into this game so I can see what the pick is going for. But
And I mean, on the Valpo side, what I'm interested for, is this bot lane. You're rotating in Thok Senpai for game two, and we're seeing the Swain pick. I don't think this is something I've seen Steamroller pull out yet
mhm.
in our league play. So how do you think that bot lane is going to play out for them?
So I think the Swain pick is more so tailored to Thunk in our ADC role right now because the Swain and the Jin combo is insane. Because what happens is Swain will throw his E out, which is his root. If he hits, he can place his W under the root. Jin can slap as well. The root that Jin slaps on, then he can throw a trap under. Swain's W that he put under his root will proc, which slows enough for Jin ult to slow, or Jin not ult, but Jin trap to slow even more, doing a ton of damage if they can line it up. especially playing into a Leona and Jinx, which it doesn't exactly have the most mobility early game, without like a kill or two going to Jinx's passive. Um, Really, I mean, I think they can chip away really, really hard here. So I do think it's a smart idea, but we're gonna have to see how it plays out. Like you said, I haven't seen Steamroller pull out the Swain this season yet, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, I think the game plan is kind of, Valpo does have that combo that we just talked about, but
Hmm.
Tiffin has the scaling of the Jinx, so it's going to be about, weathering that storm, kind of dodging those roots, dodging those combos, and seeing if they can make it to the late game,
Hmm.
a-okay.
And we don't really think about Jin. I like to pull the comparison between Jin and Caitlyn. Obviously, they're very different characters. But the way that we don't really think about it, but the way that Jin Trap can operate like Caitlyn Trap with the proper routes, um, just doing more damage. It's really, really good at chipping away, especially if you can hit that W. So I feel that um, seeing the combos that we're gonna pull out in bot lane today may actually be pretty interesting. I mean, it's gonna be on the pressure that supports can pull. Um, the way that I see Tiffin University, maybe not winning this early game, because unless they insanely outplay Valpo Esports, right? If it's an on-level play, it's going to be tailored to Valpo Esports early game. Unless they insanely outplay, the way that I see them not losing this lane, but rather staying in this game, is if Leona can properly pressure that Swain. The issue is that Jin and Swain do not have much melee range damage outside of Swain abilities, so that if Leona can get up and get in their face, you can see really a strong difference in kind of just pressure and being able to back up Jin and Swain so that when they're not in their position, they're not comfortable enough to throw that combo off.
Well, it looks like we're going to have to wait out the spectator delay here, but we will be back very shortly with game two of Tiffin versus Valpo.
And welcome everyone back to game two of Valpo Esports versus Tiffin University. Spectator delays out, So now we're going to move into the actual game. We'll get a look at their summoners, get a look at their spells, runes, just kind of see what the game plan is here. Um, Not too much different than what normally you would expect. Dragon Master Swain with the electrocute. Obviously, excuse me. Obviously going for that combo that we were talking about earlier, because that is a three-hit combo, so that will proc the electrocute. Um, I mean, Lethal Tempo, Glaciate, Phase Rush on the Rise is normal. That's usually what you want with Rise. While we were on Spectator Delay, I was talking with my co-host. We were talking about Rise's just range that he has, and it's really not that far. Um, it looks like it's not a Valpo series if we don't have some technical issue going into this game. Um, but as my co-host and I were talking about. Ryza's range is not that good. Obviously, his Q has a lot of range, right? The actual orb that he throws out. But what you want to pair that with is his E, his Spell Flux. And his Spell Flux really only has like an auto attack range. So being able to land that Spell Flux first is the only reason that he does damage. So with Phase Rush, right, when you hit three abilities, you get that movement speed. You're able to weave in and out of that spell flux range, and it makes it a lot more viable of an option for trades. So I feel that Phase Rush is a good pick for him. But MF Kimbo going with the first strike Syndra. Um, I mean, without Rod of Ages in the game right now, Syndra is just gonna outscale. Um, that's why I say the win con here is just Rise being able to help his team, especially with his ultimate and his roots that he can throw down, because damage-wise and scaling-wise, Syndra just has the better options.
Yeah, I mean, ideally you want to win every lane, but we're in the real world, so you can't win every lane. So you look at some of these picks and you're like, okay, how can I just survive, just do okay and be able to get to that late game to help my team out. And hey, look at that. I think
And
we're
we're
actually
back
back
going.
in. Yeah.
Yep. So no, I feel that I agree with you. I
30
think the
seconds
beauty
until
of League is
minions
that
spawn.
you really don't need to win this lane. Oh, we might have another freeze going on here.
I'm not sure if that's on our end actually.
It may be. We're not seeing anything from our players right now as well.
I think we
So,
might want to exit
yep.
out and come back
Up,
into this.
and we're
Oh,
we're back into.
all right.
Yep, and it looks like we're back into it. A little bit of a delay, but no matter. Just a little bit of
Rocky
stalemate here.
start, a little bit of technical issues, but didn't really miss
Yeah,
anything here.
jumping into game. I mean, it's the trifecta. Jumping into game two, jungler having issues, our spectator delay. Uh, but third thing's a charm. We should be good for the rest of this. But
Minions have
I
spawned.
think speaking on just like winning that lane, I think what's beautiful about League is that you really, as much as you want to win lane based on your champ, there are champs that you would just opt to not. Obviously you want to win every lane you can, but it's not the worst thing in the world if like a Rise loses his lane. Really what you want to look at is wave clear and scaling potential. Rise has a lot of wave clear, especially with his EQ spam, and scaling wise, same for Syndra. So it's especially if you're taking like going into the mid lane, sorry. If you're taking like a ranged into melee, right? That melee is gonna want to get pushed back. It's going to lose the lane apparently because you want to be able to get that scaling. You want that wave cleared. So I mean we're seeing a little bit of a stalemate here. Rise's early game farm without EQ is a little bit hard. You can see just a couple of chips. Really important for Swain. I think that is one character that you do have to just kind of spam abilities because his E and his W, his little orb that he can spawn on the map, and his root, when pulling back, does give him health and max health as well. A little bit of an engage here. You can see the flash and the ignite as well. Ignite coming out from Leona, but the flash coming from Swain. Like I was talking about, the way that they can pressure this lane is get in their face. Other than Swain's Q, especially in this early with level 1, he E-started, he does not have his shotgun Q. So without that Q, they have no early game start here.
Yep.
Um,
I mean, very early Tiffin using those summoners,
And
kind of
there's
to
the
make.
combo that we were
Oh
talking
my
about right
gosh, there
there.
it is.
That is the E into W into W into E again combo that we were talking about earlier with the
You know,
mines.
they were trying to, use the summoners to get that very, very early kill before that combo came up. But you saw level
Hmm.
2 hits, and there it is, exactly what we were talking about.
Yep.
And, the damage is about even, but, you know, you got Tiffin's jungler looking a little bit for Jakimbo, but not going to have anything of it.
Flip pulls. And you can see the Urgot pick into the in the gank early. First blood going into Jarvan. I mean, right there, right, that Urgot pick that we took into the Darius, it really showed how important it was because with Darius pull, it does slow you, it cripples you really hard. So really, the only way to counter it is to go and pull him back. With Urgot dash, and then he can throw over and stun. It takes a long enough time that it negates that kind of bleed and it negates that slow that you have. Pull here on the Leona, just pulling onto the Swain. Root as well, gonna get a little bit of chip here. Kind of a chippy bot lane, actually, a lot of fighting here, which you expect out of Valpo Esports' side, but not so much out of Tiffin, but Tiffin's handling it pretty well. Pretty even trades across the board right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think based upon what we knew going into this,
We have another gank as well. Emma Chikimbo predicting the camouflage right there, just throwing one down on the Wukong before he could actually hit, just to get a little bit of a stack there.
yeah, and I mean, like we talked about, based upon what we knew going into this game, I think Tiffin's doing much better than we expected in that bot lane. They've got Steamroller down low a number of times, and they've been able to make these trades.
And there's another combo right there, and that's gonna be a kill going to Steamroller.
And just as I speak, man, there it
Yeah,
is.
you might have just jinxed them a little bit, but I mean, we talked about this early. That combo is insane. I mean, we saw it makes sense now why he would want to actually take that Swain uh, into the Jhin, because just landing all of those that proc, the electrocute proc as well, it's so much damage early game that the more that you can delay this Jinx from scaling, the better the game is for you, really. So by getting those kills, but I mean, we saw Tiffin earlier, jetting in their face, jumping in. I mean, I guess just a couple of these. The flash coming out from Jinx to escape that root there as well. Max bleed on Dreadful. That's going to do a lot of damage as well, but Total Fighting flashing in, and the turret not targeting,
Oh,
dropping target. Total Fighting playing really, really well around that turret target. Um, I mean, overall, just letting the max bleed stacks getting a little bit aggressive there, but it was kind of tough because the way that Urgot was playing in and out, if he had really just stayed inside of his turret range, Darius would have been taking that one extra tower shot, but he just tried to stay away a little bit longer.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, very, very close fight in a different world. That could have been the 1-for-1 there, but
mhm.
we talked about Darius. That's why he's so strong. Is that bleed is just gonna be absolutely brutal if you get hit at max.
Yeah. And we have to consider as well that bleed, once you hit 6, I mean, that bleed becomes true damage with his ultimate. It's obviously it's already true damage, but that bleed becomes a like true damage burst shot, and it's really really hard when he dunks down on you. Especially getting dove under tower as well, because it's such a quick move and it's able to boost him back out as well once he dunks on and gets a kill, that it's really really hard to actually fight that. Um, we were gonna see it's just gonna be Dreadful has to play around that range that Wukong had. Or it looks like we have a gank here. The pull in from Dreadful as well. He used the dash to get the Wukong out, and Wukong's actually gonna get R'd and killed as well, fleeing the Darius. Darius pops Ghost. So we'll probably look for another pull in the R here and getting the kill, trading one. But Jarvan comes back up as well to try and trade it too. Darius R is still up. If he takes too much damage here, Darius still can ult it. But the bleed stacks are gone. MF Chikimbo is going to go and pick up that top lane shutdown as well. I mean, good turn by Dreadful taking the 2v1 and going 1-for-1 with that. But I think the issue here was that it just like took too long. I mean, you see Darius popping Ghost. You have a possibility of getting out of that in a 1v1 and getting out with just a 1-0 trade. But The
I mean,
fleeing was just too enticing, I guess.
still, pretty good rotations from Valpo. They recognize the strength of the Darius, and they know that their bot lane can be fine on their own.
Yep.
And
A couple of
speaking of the
pulls
bot
here and
lane,
really good damage going on the Steamroller. A kill going to Jinx. The speed buff now being able to get her out of Jin's range. Uh, really good trade right there for let's go. Really good trade right there for Tiffin. I mean, we saw it. They changed up their game plan a little bit there. Hardest part is that Jin and Swain combo really well together in a condensed area. So you saw that they kind of split themselves a little bit, and they could pull it off pretty well.
yeah, and I mean, like you said, they're playing for primarily a late game bot lane, so anything they're getting in this early game is huge, is
Mhm.
extra credit. So,
I agree.
and like I was saying before, because they trust that Jin Swain combo, Zaxter was able to lean a little more at top side and was able to come back up. But here's the Darius
Couple
fighting
of shots
again.
as well. Conqueror proccing on the Darius, getting that extra damage, but the R from Dreadful, the execute, really coming in clutch here to just save himself from those bleed stacks, getting that solo kill, and being able to push this wave in as well. Really, really good for him.
And these top lane fights are so close
Mhm.
though. You're seeing, Bleed hitting and then Dreadful just trying to do as much damage as he can before he ends up bleeding out there. So
And we're seeing too, Rise is winning a couple of these trades, or at least evening out a couple of these trades mid. I feel like majority of our games, the mid is usually the one that's taking all these fights, but top lane's making up for it here.
yeah,
Uh,
I mean, not your typical Valpo game. We haven't really heard much from mid. They've just kind of been there farming.
yep. No, and also first Rift Herald going to Valpo Esports as well. Jarvan picking it up mid. He sees the gank coming mid from Wukong. MFG Kimbo backing up. But, I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, like you said earlier in this game, good rotations are what's giving Valpo Esports the lead here. But, in these, like, fights, I mean, Tiffin's not taking them badly. There's no fight that I would say that, hey, like, you shouldn't take this. Hey, this is maybe not a good idea. I feel like the fights that they are taking are good, but this one is just unlucky as Zaxter did rotate the R on both of them as well, trapping the Leona. Leona forcing the flash, but Jarvan's going to follow up, seeing if they can get a knockup. And there's another knockup stopping him. Swain following up as well. The stun on the Swain. Leona trying to get out, but the ignite on her as well is going to get the kill. The Steamroller 14.
And I mean, honestly, the ganks have been the difference here. Zaxter's been so effective in finding a kill every time he ends up in the lane. And the Wukong on the side of Tiffin has just not been able to find that impact yet.
Yeah, I do feel like I agree with you that this Wukong right now is a big difference in this game. Just like the jungle role in general. As we say that right here, we may see a gank here, but it's just kind of the communication that Tiffins have. I mean, it's not all going to be on. We might see an early tower here with the rift drop to bottom, but it's not just all on the jungler, obviously. Big thing is communication, as we saw right there in that top lane. Wukong was set up really, really well for that gank on Urgot, but Darius just popped it too early. Wukong didn't have the time to move up and get in. Just kind of that communication difference right now that Tiffin has compared to Valpo is kind of the difference between these like ganks hopping off. And there's a root on Jinx and a couple of, but it's going to be a flash away just to save a little bit of damage. Rise rotating down, huge damage. The ult coming from Swain, but it's not going to be enough to blast away. Rise getting a lot of damage. The ignite going out on the Jhin as well, trying to target him. Stun on the driver. It looks like it won't be much here.
I mean, honestly, I think Valpo is, a little greedy there. They were pushed out
Yeah.
for a really
And here
long
comes
time.
another top. Right as the Rise walks away, Zaxter's gonna engage again. Even though he's low on mana, the Jinx with the speed boost from the last kill, he's being able to kite, but they're gonna get the kill. The huge Zanya's on the Zaxter, the flash as well, may save him in this fight. Top lane engaging as well, and Thunk Senpai might come out of this with a kill on the Leona, but Leona looks like she's just gonna get away. Dreadful getting the R and the pull off, but it's just not fast enough.
Man, action happening all over the map there.
The directed camera can't even figure out where to go. There's
Huh.
there's so many fights going on right now. I like this game though. I like interesting games like this. But no, I mean we saw here just kind of that communication finally coming in clutch for Tiffin there. With that Rise being able to rotate down after getting that wave prio. Coming down, bursting that Swain. I mean, the hardest thing about Swain is that when your movement's taken, your R becomes hard to have because your R stays longer the more people that are in it, so you can't move around people. And we saw the Rise root coming from his EW. Stopped him from really regaining that health. A lot of trades going this way, kind of fighting over vision here uh, in this jungle. Not exactly the best trade for Swain here, as Rise is going to outrange him with just pure Qs. But and then there's gonna be a knock up here from Zaxter on the Rise. Rise with not much movement options, and then MF Chikimbo clearing up the kill as well, bursting this, and that's gonna clear away for Dragon here. Mountain Dragon being up right now. Um, looks like Valpo Esports already had one Dragon, so this is gonna be second one. So next one's gonna be our Soul Point, and I think like we were talking about earlier, just like it's jungle right now. Jungle is the big difference in this game. Not only from the kills and the ganks that we've seen, the communication, but now with the two drags and the Rift Herald advantage that they have, just objective play too. It's now coming in clutch.
And I mean, in order to set up for that dragon, it's what we talked about, the weakness of that Rise in the mid lane for Tiffin. Just getting caught out, not a lot of range, not a lot of movement options. So that was the key to Valpo being able to get that dragon.
And I'd agree with you. I think that just kind of being caught out is a big it's a big good. It's a really good thing for Valpo Esports because as we know, Zaxter is a very aggressive player. Right, he loves aggressive fights. He loves getting in there. He loves jumping in. Right, that's why Jarvan 4 plays so well for him. But it really helps out Valpo Esports that Tiffin is taking all these fights. Emma Chikimbo just popping the R, outranging that Rise. Not much movement that Rise can have without that phase rush proc. Getting the quick pick up there.
Yeah, and I mean we talked about the Ranger, the Syndrome. Man, he just burned that Rise down so quick.
Yep. I mean, you hit that one stun from Syndra and the combo there. There's the R coming out from Leona. The Swain ult as well. Thong Senpai getting caught out by the Wukong R2. Emma Chikimbo coming down with the TP. Looks like trying to help out. Gets the stun and the pull on the Wukong. The flash coming from Wukong. Looks like in. And there's the kill from Emma Chikimbo. Sorry about that. Had a little bit of a mental block there, just seeing these Zanyas. Like, I forgot the name Zanyas.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was a lot of action, a lot of fighting there. But again, the rotations from Valpo, MF Chikimbo, quiet for the first 10 minutes, TP's down, and look at that. Now he's 5-0.
Yep. No, just as a recap of that fight, I mean, we saw that it was Swain R and then stopwatch. Thong Senpai stepped up a little bit, but didn't know the Wukong was there. As Wukong jumped in, got him picked. But with the MF Chikimbo TP to rotate down, he got that one kill, and then being able to secure that second kill was actually huge. We have an engage on the Rise here. Rise trying to realm warp away, but it's not going to be even far enough as Jin pops ult as well. May have been a little bit overkill, but I mean, I think the biggest thing right now is that not only is he 5-0, but Syndra has 8 stacks on his Dark Seal. For the viewers that don't know, Dark Seal is an item that you can buy that with kills and assists, it gives you stacks, and the more stacks that you have, the more AP that the item gives you. So the more stacks that he has, the more damage he does. With Dark Seal alone, it can max out to a stack of 10. The pull in on the Dreadful here, a lot of damage going down, trying to max out those steals. He's going to get an R here, and the Bleed's going to take him out, but Wukong's going to last hit it, getting that KP there, putting him on the board. But seeing that 8-stack Syndra may be a Magi Soul Stealer, which is the upgraded version of Dark Seal this game. Just overall really good for this mid lane, but we're seeing this Darius start to become an issue. Obviously, Wukong has moved his sights from looking around that mid lane, looking around that bot lane, to now he is just camping this top, which honestly I don't disagree with. I feel like giving this Darius that lead and being able to take those turrets, give him those plates, especially with Tiffin having an objective bounty up on that next turret, giving him that gold is huge. So he's really going to be the deciding factor.
Yeah, I mean, on the side of Tiffin, you're really looking at Darius and Jinx. Those are your two keys that you're going to look for to win you these late game fights. hopefully swing the game back in your favor.
And I think we just saw right there the power of the Dark Seal. That Emma Chikimbo almost just killed the Leona off one combo and a stun. The stun into the Swain W, just a good little combo there. Rift Herald popping in. They're not going to be able to do much here. Everfrost coming out on Zax, they're stopping him, but the R coming in. Darius has also rotated down, and that's actually going to be a really bad fight for Valpo. The TP coming in from Urgot to try and even the odds here. Jin R popping out as well, trying to get some shots and a slow out. The Swain W zoning out, and they're going to push him back a little bit. Huge damage from Jakimbo. Jakimbo still looking for an R here. The Urgot R getting the kill and pulling in, but Steamroller's going to go down to the turret. Triple kill going to Urgot, but Urgot falling to the turret as well. Rise getting both those kills.
My word.
Huge engage coming from that Urgot. I mean, we saw the teleport in, we saw the R, but I think the really good play coming out of that was being able to flash into the team and use the R execute to fear the other rest of the team and push them off of all the CC that Valpo can drop.
Yep.
I mean, being able to run in there, dash in, get the flee, get the E as well, pull in, the flash coming from Leona there, getting the pull out, getting the inhibitor as well.
And you saw in that fight, you get the poke, you get, 4 members of Tiffin really low, and, they think they're safe under that tower, but Dreadful says, no, I'm just going in, I don't care if I die, I'm getting all 4 of you on the way out.
Yeah, I think that the big deciding thing for that, because that was a 4v4 for 3, right? I think the big deciding fight right there, or the big deciding part of that fight, I'd say, is that Dreadful getting that R execute. If he does not get that R execute, there is no flee, there is no fight there. Valpo has to just like push back, but him being aggressive did pay off, and I think that was a really good play.
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't make that play, like you said, it ends up being really a 3-for-0 trade instead, and a big swing towards Tiffin. So a huge play by Dreadful being able to maintain this Valpo lead.
And I think Swain's gonna get a little bit of push up here. A lot of stacks that are getting a multi-root and the W proc off. Just like stacking his max health. I mean, he's gonna start getting really tanky here, which is good to match that Leona. The pull in from Dreadful and the Darius kind of sacking for that objective tower, but the execute going to Dreadful. And we have another engage here as well. Zaxter R coming out, the R from Swain as well. The pull, the flash out with Leona getting knocked up and Kimbo securing that kill, stacking his Dark Seal to the max stacks. I think I want to talk about in that top lane, they had the objective bounty up on that tower. I mean, I think honestly that was worth it for the Darius, because although there was no shutdown on Darius at that time, although the Urgot has a lot of gold right now, the gold from the objective tower giving to the rest of your team is huge. So I think that Darius, that was a good sack for him, but due to that pick and due to the picks in the mid lane as well, that is going to give Baron to Valpo Esports. Valpo having a little bit of an engage here. Wukong trying to clear his camps with the Oker emote coming out as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Tiffin has done horrible this game, but it's just objectives. I mean, Valpo has got every single one of these objectives, if I'm not mistaken. That's what's gonna win you the game ultimately.
Obviously, we're not like looking so much at the KP at this moment. The KP could be much worse. We've seen much worse in these games coming from both sides, but I think just the macro that Valpo Esports has and the communication that they have with their team is the big deciding factor between this right now, because just the way that Valpo is able to rotate around, pick up different fights, turn fights the way that they want, it's pretty huge.
Yeah, and I mean, this game has been pretty aggressive. We've seen a lot of fighting here. I mean, 31 kills in 22 minutes.
Yep.
It's been a scrappy one.
Especially like being, watching the Worlds tournament recently, especially with have the best players only trying to take the best of fights. Seeing this is a nice refresher. It's just a little bit of scrappy action. It's pretty fun. But there's a couple of chips here. Wukong looking for Gromp, but getting caught out by the Syndra. Zaxter missing the knockup, the R coming in as well, securing the kill on the Wukong, going to Jakimbo. The Rise going down to Aemon as well, or Steamroller 14, the Swain ult. This Chin R also coming in as well. Swain picking up a double kill. Jinx being able to run away, but the pull from Syndra and the pull from Urgot, and that's gonna be enough. That should be game right here.
Yep.
If they're able to take this turret, bring Baron buff, I really don't see an option. Overall, really scrappy game, really aggressive game, but I'd say a pretty clean game for Valpo Esports, especially with their team rotations. I think you can just kind of see the difference of macro here. I mean, we saw last week as well, the like Masters team that they did face had a great macro, and it seemed like even with the fights that they took, really just couldn't like scale up against them, and I think we just saw the reverse effect here. How important those objectives are, how important going into your jungle and taking these fights that you want are. Um, so no, I mean overall damage chart that we have here, kind of expected with MF Chikimbo putting 25k down, second up with Dreadful's Urgot, especially in that last fight, that triple kill, being able to jump in, kind of just negating that Darius's effect. But
Yep. And I mean, 11-0-5, incredible performance. We talk about it. He really does put down the damage and, lead this Valpo team in those fights. But I
mhm,
also want to shout out Zaxter,
yep.
1-1-15, doing really
He
well.
was around the map. He was all around the map. I mean, out of 27 kills, 15 or 16 of him were 16 were contributed to him.
Yeah,
So,
I mean more than half of Valpo's kills were because of Zaxter,
yep.
which is actually exactly the same amount. Jacimbo and Zaxter involved in the same amount of kills, and
Hmm.
like you said, really everywhere, even where Tiffin didn't expect it.
Yep.
Where's Zaxter? Oh, there he is. He's ganking your lane. So
Oh, and speaking of that, we actually have Zaxter in the from the outside, and we're gonna call him in for a little bit just to talk. Yep. I mean, when we see you on Jarvan 4, most of the time we expect an interview, because another like 1-1-15 game.
It's me, the J4.
Yep. So no, we have Zaxter here in the booth. I mean, going into this game, right? Checking your kind of like comp that you have. Are there any like caveats that you have to look out for? Are there any lanes you want to focus on?
So, at least for me, I picked the safety pick. J4 is a pretty safe pick for me.
Hmm.
Um, but after we drafted the J4 and the Jin, we just knew that we'd be able to hold everyone off from Karis, our ADC there on Jin, while everyone else just kind of stun locked, beat them up, and we shot into the crowd.
Yeah. No, and I think a big difference here, right, we talked about in the booth, was just jungle macro. I feel like with moving around to objectives, taking different points like that. So, when like deciding objectives here, especially in this game, were you looking for like lane priority? Was it more just based off your laners communicating, or what was kind of the deciding factor of when you would
Sure.
go for things?
Sure. So honestly, it was all about positioning of the enemy jungler and where my laners are. As
Hmm.
long as my laners are winning lane or at least distracting the opponent enough that I can start the objective and they can rotate up first, that's a good green light for me. If Wukong's on the other side of the map or backing in a bush right next to me while he's unaware that I'm taking the objective, that's also good.
Yeah, I did see on that one fight that Wukong was
just
downside, you
just
guys started ripped up immediately, yeah. So I that vision does play a big part. And I mean another like great game. I mean all the points that I would ask you about we've talked
yeah.
about thousands of times on this stream already. But another great game, 1-1-15. I mean just overall like great team play. It was fun to watch here, especially with an aggressive game because we tend to see that you like to be aggressive when
Thank
playing in
you.
that jungle. So seeing like our landers play around that does help out a lot. So,
Thank you.
but no, that's gonna be all for our broadcast today with Valpo picking
Hi,
up the
Mom.
2-0 win. uh,
Thanks, Dad.
and we will see you guys
See you
next
in a
time.
while.
Go Valpo.